Hey guys, welcome back to Six Quantum Bridge Podcast. This is your host, analyst, and researcher, Bernadette. You're listening to the 2025 Spotify Marathon Show, Most Shared Show, and Rising Star Podcast. You're about to find out why. Welcome to Season 6, guys. So if you're just joining me as a new listener, welcome. You have a lot to catch up on, okay? So, you're going to be here a while. So go ahead and follow me. So I wanted to talk about... Now, I'm just thinking of the name of this as I record this podcast because it's like, what do you really call this? Random rage baiting? Or listen, we live in a rage baiting kind of world, and a lot of it, even though it's random, it's like some of them seem really random and unprovoked. It seems that people can't survive without hate. Okay, now let me explain. We come off the heels of people like Azalea Banks and Spencer Pratt. These are people that rage baited their way into clicks and views that resulted in money. Okay, so when you take this and put this in the perspective of the spiritual community, and there are some out there that like to say, well, if you're hating me, that's transferring to me getting money, right? So what are they saying without saying it? Okay, because of course there's a lot of rehearsal that happens before they click post. Okay, this is not off the fly. These are rehearsed like 5 to 10 times at least before they post, just so that it sounds and looks perfect, right? Nothing ever flies off the cuff. So we're going to be talking about the law of assumption, Neville Goddard, and people like Azalea Banks and Spencer Pratt. And what does that mean in today's digital age? We're also going to be talking about Jupiter. Yes, that big, gigantic planet is in charge of, be careful what you say because you just might get it, okay? Now, I learned from someone in the gypsy community that you have to be very careful with your quote unquote affirmations, because if you even insinuate something that you didn't mean to insinuate, it kind of backfires your affirmation and you wind up getting what you didn't ask for. Okay. So when you ask the universe, quote unquote, for something, be careful how you're wording it. Okay. And this is coming from somebody that doesn't believe in affirmations. I don't do the affirmations thing. Okay. Why? Not because necessarily that they don't work. It's just that it's a little, it's not so direct, right? Affirmations for me, in my estimation, are asking the creation instead of the creator for what you want, right? And not everything that you want is for you. Okay. The things that I've learned before I turn 50 tomorrow, yes, happy birthday to me, is how would you look at things now in your 50th year moving forward? And how does it compare and contrast to how you would have dealt with the same thing the other 49 years? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you. I know as a well-documented intermediary, that is basically somebody that stands in the gap with my prayers, that's not a small job because you're basically taking on the woes and the pains of other people and turning them into a very powerful prayer, standing in the gap between the person that needs the prayer to be sent to God and God's ears, okay? Now, they could do it themselves, but sometimes when you're going through grief or something like that, your words get jumbled and you need to be direct with what it is that you want, okay? So if you're saying something like, for instance, quote, may every evil lie sent to me result in cash for me, end quote, right? Let's just put that one on the table, right? Let's dissect it. And I know a lot of people get mad. Oh, why do you have to dissect things? This is what I do. Listen, if you knew anything about my astrological makeup, you know that I don't just let things slide just like that. I'm always going to dive deeper, okay? I'm a Taurus sun, Libra moon, Scorpio rising, okay? So my birthday is tomorrow, so this is kind of natural that I would make this type of episode, okay? Because I don't feel like I do enough spiritual episodes on here, and I did say that I was going to do an equal amount of the content I usually put on here and spiritual things as well. I don't need 10,000 podcasts to do different things, okay? So I just put everything on here. That's where the biggest audience is. So where are you going to take it? To your least audience or your biggest audience? Anyway, so Jupiter being the planet of expansion, what I was taught, and it turns out to be very true, is that you got to be very, very careful. And what I'm thinking right now, I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Bedazzled. Okay. I'm kind of like feeling like it's a kind of like a energy like that, like not that type of energy, but like kind of like, be careful what you wish for, you might get it type of thing. And you got to be very clear on what you want without it having an opportunity for misinterpretation, right? Because what are you saying when you say, quote, every evil eye sent to me results in money, end quote? What are you really saying? I mean, on the surface, it sounds powerful, right? But what can it be construed at if you're not being careful about what you're saying? I mean, it's a cute repost post. I mean, it's cute, right? Cute, kitschy, right? But what can it be construed as if you're not careful? On the surface, it looks cute, but what is it really saying? What it's really saying is that quote unquote hater that you think is your hater holds the cards to your financial destiny. You're saying that if we are your haters, that we basically hold your money in our hand. If we decided to not give you any attention, and people like this that say things like these affirmations, quote unquote, for them, it's all about eyeballs. So any kind of attention is good attention, okay? They live with that mantra, any publicity is good publicity. But if that was really the case, when you get called out there, why do you block? Why do you deflect? Okay, so it just doesn't match up with what they're selling, okay? So what are you saying, really? As I said a million times before, it sounds cute on paper, right? But what is really being said beneath the surface? Because, see, with spirituality, it's not about the surface. It's about deepness, depth, okay? So what is the underlying layer of what you're saying as an affirmation? What you're saying is you're signing a contract with that person that you perceive to be your hater, that they now control your finances. And what does that mean? That means if they decide to not pay you any attention anymore, you're going to start to shrivel up, much like a vampire needs blood. Otherwise, they shrivel up and die, okay, into nothingness. They turn to dust. The same idea applies here. When you need to be hated in order to be financially successful. And with the amount of hate that you think you get, because one person can't hate you that much. Let's say that there's a lot of people that hate you, that you say that you don't know where the hate is coming from, right? It could be coming from anywhere. You don't know where to direct your return to sender energy because you're not allowed to go attacking people unprovoked. So since you don't know who it is, then you got to make posts like this, hoping for a response from the actual quote unquote hater, right? But what are you actually saying? You're saying that that person that hates you has a direct standing in how much finances you get. Because if it's directly tied to their hate, that means if they take away that hate, if they start complimenting you, or not even having to compliment you, if they just don't give you any kind of attention at all, you start to feel the pinch and you start to feel like you're drying up because you're a vampire. So what do? You make rage bait posts to elicit that hate. Okay. And if you've been watching somebody for a long time, you're going to know what that person is into or what they hold dear. Like, for instance, okay, let's say if somebody starts posting anti-God content, right, to try to get a response out of me, and then I send something to that person, and then all of a sudden they get eyeballs. And, it translates in the digital world to eyeballs being engagement, right? So they are basically manufacturing hate, farming hate, so that they can get paid. But what does it say about your reliability as somebody that's spiritual, somebody that can teach? It doesn't say much of that. If your whole claim to fame is being the most hated, eventually people tire of that. There's a lot of digital fatigue out there now. I'm going to give you these examples. Again, Azalea Banks, okay, which did a lot of what we're seeing now within the witchy spiritual community. People eventually got tired of her and just ignored her. And that's the worst thing for a vampire like that, to be ignored. Okay? I'm not saying to hand out compliments like Halloween candy, because this, like, if it's not sincere, then don't bother saying it, right? If you really feel this about this person, great, go ahead, pay this person a compliment. They probably need it bigger and more than you do. Okay? It's all about attention. So let's go to the notes. Okay. Alrighty, I'm just going through my notes here. A lot of this is already what I said. There's a boomerang energy with Jupiter, okay? You see, Jupiter, as I said before, is the planet of expansion and abundance, but he's also associated with the greater benefic. When you try to game Jupiter by linking your abundance to something toxic like an evil eye, you're playing with fire. The wrong person is going to hate you. And then money is going to be the last thing of your worries, okay? It's going to be your very fucking life. That's going to be, but that's another episode, okay? So what is this boomerang? Jupiter expands what is already there, okay? If the root of your income, quote unquote, is envy and theft, Jupiter is eventually going to expand that poverty of soul until it collapses. You have to be very careful when you're fucking with Jupiter, because when you manifest, you're directly talking to Jupiter. Okay? For those in the spiritual community that believe in that, okay, you're speaking to Jupiter. Okay? And Jupiter doesn't mix words. If you say something that could be misconstrued or construed in an alternate way, you're going to get the alternate. Like, let's think back to the movie Bedazzled, okay? the male character kept on asking for something so that he can get the girl of his dreams. Okay, that's Brendan Fraser's character. Okay, and Elizabeth Hurley, supermodel, beautiful. Okay, she played the devil. Okay, in this movie. So he kept on asking her and having to amend what he was asking for. So she kept on giving him the kind of fucked up version. It's like it starts off nice, but then at some point it's kind of it's like what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of like a comedy, right? Like, okay, for instance, there was one where he knew that the girl of his dreams wanted a sensitive guy. So it starts off nice and everything. They're on the beach or whatever, and he's singing to her, and he's like uber sensitive, and so sensitive to the point where some douchey guy kicks sand on him in the beach and everything, and he's not fighting back or anything because he's very sweet and sensitive and overly so, and she winds up leaving with the douchey guy. Okay, that's one example. Okay, I'm really dating myself by mentioning this movie because it's like, it came out a long time ago, but there was another one where he was in a big fancy house and he had the woman of his dreams next to him in the bed and everything, big fancy mansion. Turns out he was a drug lord. And that's how he got all his money. He was getting shot up. Okay. So that's just another example of how these things go left. Okay. So really be careful with this whole affirmation thing. Okay. It can go left. I mean, think about, after this episode, think about how it could go left. Okay. With the whole affirmations thing, being that you're trying to get a planet involved like Jupiter, a little bit of a trickster. Okay. So it's like, you got to be careful. Okay. There was another one. Where he wanted to be a big, strong guy, right? Because this was right after he was the overly sensitive guy. So he's like, okay, screw this. I want to be very, very big and strong, right? So the next thing, she zaps him, whatever. And he's big and he's strong and he's popular and, he's a basketball star and everything. And he's in the locker room and she's a reporter and his towel drops and he's big everywhere else, but I don't think I have to fill in the blanks here. She made him very, 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 very tiny in comparison to his bigness, right? So this is what I'm talking about, okay? And, it's such a good illustration of how you have to be careful with this whole law of assumption manifesting thing, because it can go left, okay? You see, I play it safe. I take my requests to God. I know that there's never going to be any trickery with that, so I wind up getting what I need, okay? Not necessarily everything that I want all the time, okay? Because not everything that I want is good for me. So there was, many instances, where I didn't get the thing that I wanted, but it was revealed why I didn't get it. And I was being protected, okay? So rejection is protection, but if you want to do the whole affirmation thing, then it kind of bypasses the spiritual protection as well. Okay, because it's like, it's you saying that you don't care how many people got to get hurt or what has to be moved around on the chessboard, as long as you get what you want. It's very selfish, okay? So, as I said before, Jupiter eventually expands that bad part of it until you collapse, okay? So there is a little bit of that trickster energy. You got to be very, very careful, okay? So again, if this person is naming you as an enemy or as a hater, they're actually putting the keys to their bank vault in your pocket, because then you control. If you decide to never give this person energy again, then they start to feel the drying up because they're vampires, and then they start to having to bait again with more baiting posts. And when you ignore those two, because they want a reaction, okay? If you don't give them the reaction, the energy, whatever, then they go silent for a while. Okay, let me regroup. Talking bad about God didn't work. Okay. Pretending I'm into the things that she's into didn't work. Okay. Okay. And then once they've gotten over everything that they think that you're into, that you hold dear, and they did some kind of baiting post to try to rile you up because they need that angry energy to fuel them, and you don't give it to them because you couldn't care less, you couldn't give a shit. Because let's face things, okay? It's like, whatever you're into, it's not going to be damaged because they're trying to get into it too, okay? They bash God, that's not going to make you love God any less. That's between them and God. Whether they believe in him as being the creator or not, that's entirely on them. Let them find out, okay? It's like, listen, you can't hold people's hand all their lives. They're in their mid-30s, okay, a lot of them. Like, when the fuck are you going to grow up? Like, grow up, okay? Like, baiting posts, rage bait is something that a junior high schooler does. You're in your 30s. You're looking to get a rise out of somebody that you don't like, that you're calling the hater, but yet you're calling that person the hater, and they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care if you become stinking rich or if you become a hobo on the street. It doesn't matter either way to them. But since that is the energy, and they're picking up on that kind of like neither here or there energy, they got to manufacture something. It's all about manufacturing the energy they need to fuel what they want. Okay? A lot of this is logic. A lot of this is mathematics. There's a great deal of logic and mathematics and science in spirituality and how it works. Okay? Just keep this in mind. So they essentially go bankrupt. Let me get some water in me. Hold on. I think it's time for some ice cream too. A little bit of a treat before I finish up here. Hold on. Much better. Okay. So, let's talk about this bankruptcy of silence, okay? If we're required, as part of whatever this is that they're doing, I see this all the time, if us responding is the currency they need to keep the money flowing, what happens when we just pray for them and move on with our day? Because at the end of the day, listen, it doesn't matter how much you say to try to appeal to that person, to try to reason with them. If they are committed to not understanding you, then they're just not going to want to. They're going to plug up their ears. Okay? Some of them don't have the positive older female energy in their life, and it shows. So, that being said, if a person is dependent on quote unquote evil eye, for example, right? I think I referenced this earlier in the broadcast. If you're dependent on the eye, then you're a vampire. And again, what happens to a vampire when the blood supply stops? They don't get rich. They turn to dust. They need your hatred to survive. This is the thing. Do you want to really be involved with somebody that requires your hatred? Do you want to be connected to any entity, whether it's a spirit or it's a human, or a spirit operating in a human? Do you really want to be that conductor, that energy that fuels them to do this to other people? Because it's not just a transaction between you and them. This is you and everybody else. Do you really want to be the reason why they continue to hurt other people? Just pull your energy and you see how quick they pivot. All of a sudden they're rebranding. All of a sudden they're into something that you're into. Okay? And it's all to, in vain, try to get a reaction out of you. I mean, you can try, nobody's saying that you can't try to be into the things that I'm into, but I mean, there's the Temu version of a lot of things, okay? So, I mean, if you're trying to save money, right, it's all about investment. If you're trying to save money, I guess you get the Temu version of things. I mean, by all means, try whatever you need to try, right? But you get what you pay for. You know that old adage, you get what you pay for? This is why back in the 50s and the 40s and the 50s, you bought something like, let's say, a washing machine. You never needed to call a repairman, and you never bought another machine in your life because they built them to last for like 100 years. Okay? That's why they started giving warranties on things. 5-year warranty, 10-year warranty, so that in X amount of years, you would be expected to pay for another brand new machine so that they can still make money. Otherwise, they wouldn't make money because there's no money in the repair. The money is in buying new products. Capitalism, guys. Anyway, so what have we learned today? If somebody's trying to manifest a profit out of a problem, all they're doing is making you the chairman of the board. When you stop caring, they start going into a spiritual recession. So let's go to the celebrity edition of this, okay? Again, we're going to get into the whole Azalea Banks, okay? So here, number one, Azalea Banks effect, the evil eye trap. We're going to call this, okay? Because I feel like it resounds a lot with this situation. Azalea Banks is the poster child for this, just what we're talking about. She is incredibly talented. We're not going to take that away from her, okay? But she built her entire brand on the evil eye energy, attacking everyone from Rihanna to Beyonce, claiming she was transmuting their fame into her own power. Do you really want to be an Azalea Banks? She's kind of a joke now. I'm just saying. So the theory went as this. She thought that the hate, quote unquote, and the controversy, quote unquote, this is two hallmarks of what these rage baiters like to do if they don't have your energy anymore. And they feel it, believe me. They don't have your energy anymore because you're busy doing something else, whatever it is that you're doing, and you really got no time. Then they have to manufacture something that's going to make you angry. Okay? In order to get that hate. Right? So, again, she thought that the hate and controversy, quote unquote, would keep her relevant and rich. Does it sound like somebody we know? Okay. And if this was the case with 20,000 on one social network, 30,000 on another 30,000 on another, another 10 and change thousand on another. You would think with those many thousands of eyeballs, that it would produce enough hate to make this person be wealthy. Why hasn't it? Why hasn't it? Why aren't you wealthy? Why don't you have a mansion? Why don't you have a yacht? Why don't you have a butler and a maid and a chauffeur? Why don't you have any of those hallmarks? Why don't you have a Renoir on your mantle in your mansion? Why don't you have any of those things if you're so hated? Shouldn't the hate be so powerful enough to make you filthy, stinking rich? Shouldn't you be super duper wealthy by now? I mean, it's been, 8 years? You haven't manifested wealth yet? Comfort financially is not the same as wealth, my friend. Think about it. And I know it kind of like bursts your bubble and, causes cognitive dissonance, all of that. But I mean, really think about it. Just because your people won't tell you doesn't mean they're not thinking it. They don't want to tell you this because they don't want to lose access to you, because you're quick with the block button. And they want to, for whatever reasons they have, we don't know, want to keep eyeballs on you. Not everybody that watches you likes you. And you've said it yourself. But how many of those viewers, how many of those followers are passive? Do you know what passive means? Means that you can come up with the most heartfelt, emotionally revealing post and you get 8 likes out of 32,000 or 33,000. 8 likes and not even a comment. What does that say? That's less than 0.1%. Nobody cares. But yet, when you post something in scantily clad clothing, then it's of value. It really shows you what's going on in here is not important to them as what kind of skin you're showing. And that, even if they don't say anything, that starts to get to a person like, damn, man. Nobody cares about what's going on in this head of mine. Nobody fucking gives a shit. I mean, how long have you had that podcast? Both of them. How long? Shouldn't you be like well known by now? You should be on like some Leo Skeppy, Joe Rogan type shit by now. And the issue is that nobody cares what you have to say. When that's what you build yourself on, the visual before the mental or the emotional or the spiritual, people are going to go with what they know about you first. So, that being said, what was the reality of Azalea Banks? What happened to her? Really, what happened to her? I'm going to look at this up after this episode. People basically got eventually tired of her everybody hates me, you're a bunch of haters trope, okay? They stopped engaging altogether. They stopped clicking and they stopped buying. Now she's mostly known for her chaotic social media rants rather than her music. It's sad how the mighty have fallen. The girl had potential, but she squandered it. Again, what is the lesson here? If your cash is dependent on people watching your mess, you're not a mogul. You're a gladiator in a crumbling arena. And once the audience leaves, you're just standing in the dirt alone. Again, let's talk about Spencer Pratt. Spencer Pratt was a reality star, otherwise known as a hate follow influencer. Okay. He basically leaned into being the pimple on the face of the show, assuming that any press is good press. That's an underlying thing with these karmics as well. Any press is good press. Okay. What I refer to a pimple. Now, do you know of any pimple that is useful? Any pimple you get on your face, is it useful? The really large mound, painful one, not useful, right? You're miserable. And try as you might to prevent that pimple from happening. If there's something internally going on in your biology, it's going to appear. And it serves no purpose but to annoy you and fuck up your day. Do you really want to be a pimple? Just think of a beautiful face that is completely blemish free, and then boom, that fucking pimple shows up right the day of an event too. What is its purpose? To let you know that something, really everything has a purpose, okay? Even your enemies have a purpose, okay? You can learn from them too. I've said this many times, okay? What is the purpose of a pimple? And there are different types, okay? If you had a pimple on your face and you really could not use a fucking pimple, okay, because you have an event and you're going to be having your face photographed all the time, a pimple is the worst fucking thing. For a teenager, day of the dance, they get a big old fucking zit, right? The worst ones are the ones at the tip of your nose, the middle of your fucking forehead. What forehead? You can get bangs, okay? You can cover that shit up, but you can't cover up your nose, okay? Those are the worst. The most painful ones, I remember from when I was a teenager, the most painful ones, the most fucking annoying ones are the ones in the nasal labial fold, right between the edge of your nostril and the cheek, that little groove. When it's right there, it's impossible to get rid of, okay? You're scrub, and you're using all these products and everything, and it's like, you gotta wait for that bitch to fucking grow before you can pop it. That's the worst fucking part. These people that do this kind of rage bait thing, they're pimples. What comes out of a pimple? Have you ever squeezed your pimple? Silly question, right? All of us have squeezed our pimples, okay? What comes out of there is not pretty. And it's been underneath the surface of the skin waiting to show its ugly head. And in a lot of ways, these rage baiters like Azalea Banks and Spencer Pratt and these people that I've been talking about in this episode, they're pimples. They serve no purpose but to fuck up your day. You're doing everything you can to disengage, not give any kind of acknowledgement. So what do? They get more aggressive. That's what a pimple is. Something's wrong inside their body. And they feel the need to show up by any means necessary. So, sponsors, a lot of the time, this is the mantra that people like Spencer Pratt and all these people we've been talking about, this is how they think. If they hate me, they're still talking about me, and that keeps my name in the mouth of the sponsors. Again, if you're so well known, if you're such a, what's the word I'm looking for? If you're such a shining marker of the community, how come you're not more well known? You're not famous. How come in your 8 years of doing this, you have not become famous? I know why. You don't want to be famous. Why? Because then the more eyeballs that are on you, the less you can hide. You can block 1 or 2 or 10 people, but you can't block millions of people. Eventually, you got to go ghost. Right? It's easier. Because you could do it when you're in the thousands, but you can't do it when you're in the millions. It's a lot harder then, because there's more of a wealth of people that could be sending you that evil eye, right? You don't know where it's coming from. The more people that grow on your socials, the more that number goes up, the less you can pinpoint where this hate is coming from. And that's the shit that they won't admit to you. So they have to pivot and make posts like, your hate gives them money. Of course it does. It's called watch time. But if you're not watching, are they making that money? This is why they have to collect people. Because they need the people not to help them, but for hate engagement. You think they are keeping you on their social media because they like you? They're using you. And this is something they will never tell you. Why would they? But eventually, that hate, quote unquote, turns into apathy. And apathy in this digital age equals bankruptcy. When Spencer stopped being the villain people loved to hate, the checks stopped coming. You see, the lesson here is hate is an high octane fuel that burns out fast, okay? If you don't have a well of your own, like a real craft or a loyal community, and I'm talking about a loyal community, not spectators that are just looking to see what you're doing so that they can make fun of you. Not everybody that's watching you, that you have grown all of your social media, not everybody there likes you. You see, I can guarantee that even though I don't have millions of followers, the decent amount, and it's impressive, the decent amount of followers I do have all like me. Of course, some may come in there because it's, whatever. You're going to get a few haters sprinkled in there. But the majority, 99%, I would say, like me. And that's why they come back. I would say a 1% are watching me because they hate my fucking guts. But do you see the dichotomy there? I don't even feel the hate because the 99 overtakes the 1. The 1% is like an ant on the leg of a lion. That lion's not going to feel an ant. Are you kidding me? That thing is crawling up its leg. It doesn't even know. It doesn't even see it. Doesn't know it's there. It doesn't feel it. He's too busy being regal. There's another one here. The Anna Delvey case. So there's something called Anna Delvey syndrome. It's the identity thief. Anna Delvey assumed the persona of a wealthy German heiress. I've talked about this person before on a previous broadcast. She used the quote-unquote law of assumption to trick the elite of New York into thinking she belonged. Now, the theory was, according to her, if I assume the role of the rich girl, the world will provide the money. The reality. This was what you call a clogged pore strategy, okay? She was siphoning off the energy and the resources of others to maintain a facade. What is the lesson here? You can't assume a lifestyle that belongs to someone else forever. Eventually, the audit happens. She ended up with a prison sentence and a legacy as a fraud, not the icon she tried to manifest. Your downfall is coming, and you don't know which one of your 30,000 something followers are going to be the one to make you fall. You don't know. And the bigger you get, the more followers you get, the more invisible that circle becomes. You don't know where it's coming from. You have to sleep with one eye open. Now, I wanted to talk about the flip side here. And I'll talk about this gentleman more in the next broadcast, okay? What a beautiful man. If somebody wants to use the law of assumption the correct way, you should take a look at Michael Jackson. He didn't say, may your hate give me money. He said, I'm going to make the best music in the world so that I am the standard. And he focused on his abundance, not his enemies. He tried like hell not to make enemies. There will never be another Michael Jackson in every way, shape, or form. By focusing on evil eye, like these people do, they're admitting that they're a vampire economy. So here's economy 101 for you guys. You cannot have a sustainable economy if your only export is being a target. What does that mean? If you're always the hated, then you can't have a stable economy. You're always going to be looking to make ways to be hated. And then you wonder why you can't find love. You're telling the universe, because you believe in the universe, you're telling the universe that you're not deserving of love. You're attaching whatever abundance you have to people hating you. So when you essentially want love, because no matter how evil you are, there's always that one part that's still human in you that's still going to want love. And when the two are battling in your soul, who do you think is going to want to win? Your natural inclination as a human being to want to be loved. But then you don't want to give control away, so you try to manifest love in the ways that love is not brought in. Love is not brought in through a spell. I hate to break it to you, but love is not brought in through a spell. So when that essentially works out to be the truth, then they pivot and talk about self-love. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, to talk about self-love when you're not getting the external love. Then they pivot to self-love, which causes a cycle and a circle that never ends. Now, think about it. If she was really, or they were really transmuting your negative, hateful, quote unquote, energy, shouldn't that bitch be fucking rich by now? Is there not enough with your 30,000 and 20,000 and 10,000 followers? There's not enough hate being generated there? You're going to tell me that you don't have enough haters with all of those eyeballs on you to manifest anything that it is that you want, especially cash? And the easiest thing in the world to get is cash, my friend. It's a lot more difficult to manifest true love. Anybody can manifest cash. Any motherfucker can manifest cash. Easiest fucking thing in the world. Cash doesn't have a soul. But love. Love. Remember that old adage. I'm going to hurt some fucking feelings right now. She can make them come, but she cannot make them stay. She can make them come, but she can't make them stay. And that translates not just to sexual romantic love. That talks about eyeballs too. When people see you posting the same kind of shit all the time, following the same fucking formula, they get tired. Apathy ensues and they move on. You have to do the next big thing, engagement farming wise, to get those numbers back to the people that walked away. You see, a queen is funded by her kingdom. A parasite is funded by its host. If she's waiting for your quote-unquote evil eye to pay her bills, she's already admitted that she has no kingdom of her own. What does a parasite, a tapeworm, do? Right? It causes you to overeat, overconsume, so that it can get fed before you do. So, in essence, ladies and gentlemen, some of you are going to take this with a grain of salt. That's fine. Whatever. Okay. I'm not your mama. Okay. But as I move into my 50th year of life, I've learned some things. And even though I need glasses to see now, I've never seen more clearly spiritually from a wisdom point of view. You can be spiritual, but are you wise?